Okay, like, because I know you're going to have some ruffles and numbers, but if it's really low, I think it's really important that we hold ourselves accountable and actually have those conversations with ourselves and actually like explore and be like, is this the right group of friends that I should really be in, especially in this time in your life? Because the reality is, the reason why I'm even like bringing this up is because we all know a lot of people are going through things, especially us as young women. Sometimes people don't feel comfortable to share with other people, but everyone's going through things, and it really doesn't help when you're friends with the wrong kind of people. Because in those dark times, you really need people who don't just say, praying for you, but knock on your door, give you a call, go Uber Eats is outside your house. So like sometimes you reach moments in your mind where you go, I'm sure everybody reaches a season when you kind of look at a friend and you're like, okay, that was a bit off, or that was an awkward moment, or I don't know if I really trust this person anymore, or da-da-da-da-da. And then I'm now being challenged to, even when that thought comes into my mind, go, but can they trust you all the time? And I think it's really important for us to be for us to lead. And the reason why I say that is because Jesus was like the greatest example of that. And even talking about friends, I feel like not a lot of people use the disciples as like the perfect example of like friends. Because you have to think about it, Jesus had 12 different kind of personalities, attitudes to deal with. And he dealt with them differently. He dealt with them with grace and with love. And he had these moments where he had to cast them and let them know that what you're doing is not right. But at the same time, he still loved them in that. And thinking about that, like I think I was talking to my mom about this whole idea. I was like, Mom, you know, like friends and all these different things. And I was like, you know, it's so interesting. Sometimes we get so focused on trying to like make our friends good for us, but are we good for our friends? And the reason why I put that question out there is kind of like, so think about it this way. Jesus knew what he was here to do. He knew that he's going to need the disciples to do a certain job for him. Jesus showed the ultimate, well, two things that he did. He showed how him being the leader, washed their feet, pretty much showing that I can serve you. And because they're going to need to serve him when he goes. And then another thing is that none of them were in a place to die for him, but he knew that he would die for them. Because the reason why I'm going into this, we're going to start talking about cancel culture. Because if you look at it, the disciples definitely had their moments where they doubted Jesus to his face, not behind his back, to his face, like, well, I'm really going to do that. Where Peter denied him 3 times. After Jesus said, you're going to do it, he said, no, I would never. And he really Judas really sat there and really said, cheers everyone, the break, yeah, cheers everyone, to even betray him. But Jesus still died for him too. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, cool, so like Jesus died, I was like, cool, so like technically, you know, the Bible talks about how like, you know, technically in the end times, you know, we die for our faith, we will be persecuted and all those different things, right? And I was looking at that, I'm like, cool, so Jesus died for them, and if you look at it, technically a lot of them ended up dying for Jesus. Because they were killed, because they believed in him, because they were proclaiming his word. And I was like, do you really think that they would be able to do that if he didn't do it first? And the reason why I say that is because sometimes, and not all the time, but sometimes in our friend groups, right? We want our friends to do this thing. We're like, no, I need her to be more caring. I want her to be more caring for me, but it's like, sis, do you do that for her? You can't ask someone to do something for you if you can't give it back. And yes, we have the conversations of what if I always give and I don't receive. Then that's when I say have that conversation with yourself and actually see, is this really a friendship? Or is it's not even a business anymore because it's not even transactional. It's really just, I do this for you all the time and you just collect. You just collect. So if you're in the business of just giving without receiving, that's good for you. But in reality, all of us want to be able to give and want to be able to receive.
People, like whether they deserve to know why you're cancelling them. I think every person should have the right to know why you're cancelling, because sometimes they might not even realize that that's what they're doing as a person. And you're sitting down with them and like telling them, hey, I don't think you're a good friend. It might actually help them like realize and like reflect on themselves and be like, wow, okay, I haven't been the best of friend. So like there are things that I need to work on, and then they might come back and be like, actually I've been feeling the same way about our friendship, and tell you things about you that you haven't been doing so well at. So yeah, I just think it's important to find the right way to like tell them why you want to distance yourself kind of thing, and not just like block them.
Like growing apart and cancelling easily, and often how we sort of like get those two mixed up, and just like within our own experiences, they're not as black and white as it seems. You know what I mean? So it's like you could have a friendship for how many years and just be slowly moving in your own directions, and you might reconnect at some point. But oftentimes it feels like you are being cancelled if you're on that side. Or like you feel like you're doing something like super dramatic because you are just missing yourself and you're aware of it.
You're gonna have no friends if you keep thinking this is not your job. It is not your job to be the police. And start saying, because you're not where I'm at, you can't be with me. And now, when I was reading the Bible, I was like, do you realize that none of the people that Jesus walked with were close to what he was like? None of them had the same faith, the same power, the same courage, the same capabilities that he did. But he didn't dismiss them. Even when they had their moments when they said, Jesus, are you sure? And he really said, I've just busy been telling you that I'm the Son of God. I am the Lamb. I've come here to do this, and they're still even saying, I don't know. They were, I don't know, I keep forgetting his name. There's literally a disciple, and they call him the doubter. Because he Thomas. This one. Thomas just every day. That friend, yeah, this is a cool idea. So we're gonna do this, and that friend's like, I don't know. I don't know if you're gonna be able to do that. Every time you come to this friend, hey, so I was thinking they're like, but it's raining outside, so I don't know if we're gonna be able to do that. The rain has nothing to do with it's raining outside, so I don't know if we're gonna be able to do that. But if you think about it, Jesus didn't dismiss him. And you know what's really interesting? It's like after Jesus died, like I was even thinking about Peter. I'm like, you do realize Jesus could have come back when he did come back. He didn't have to talk to Peter no more. He could have been like, you say you did what I said you were going to do. I knew you were going to like deny me. You did it 3 times. Come on, Peter. You couldn't handle the heat. Jesus could have easily just been like, nah, I'm good. One's gone. Well, nobody kicked him out. He went by his own. You betrayed. You can go too. Thomas, you're on a thread. Like, he could have easily, he could have. He's king. He decides who's in and who's not. But he didn't. He still came back to Peter. Even Peter had to cry, Master, like, what did I do? Jesus is like, no, it's all good. Now, this is what I need you to do. And he's like, what? After okay, listen, this is what I need you to do. He looked over it. And I know we're not Jesus, but we want to be like him, right? Technically, we all strive to be like him, to love others the way he did. And speaking on that, it's kind of like sometimes even our friends are not supposed to be perfect. They're not supposed to be perfect. I'm not condoning habits. That's a different conversation. Obviously, yet again, I'm not talking about the excess, the one that we all can all nod our head and say, yes, we all know there's certain people in our lives that, or maybe not in your life, but you know the group of people or that one person that you shouldn't be associating yourself with. It's not good for them and it's not good for you. still acknowledge them as a human being, acknowledge, still respect them for who they are, love them, pray for them. I love the real conversation, busy pointing the finger saying, my friend, okay, well, when was the last time you went on your knees and really prayed for your friend? When was the last time you said, my friend has a big mouth, Lord, I pray that you give her grace, give her the ability to feel something, to hold her mouth, shut her mouth like you shut the lion's mouth in Daniel's head. Like real question though, how many times have you actually gone on your knees and really said, God, that one friend who's a bit skiddy, she's not really there yet with us, Lord. Or he's not really there yet with that, Lord. I want us to pray for them, Lord. Please, I just pray that you help me to be the right friend I can be for them, that I can support. When was the last time you did that? Every time you do something right. But when you're doing something wrong, not to just go, oh, well, I guess that's a woman. Or to actually sit down and be like, babes, you know that one time? Because I think it's yet that thing, we're so uncomfortable to talk about the deep stuff with our friends. Because it's friends for a good moment, it's friends for a vibe, but it's not friends for the walk. I'm confused. And that's why it's this thing of the inner circle.
As we should be sensitive to each other's personalities and come to each other in the middle, because it can't always be just like, oh, I just tell you this because something's wrong with you, but it's like, how am I telling you that information and how are you going to accept it because of your personality? Because we're all different. Like, even though it's the truth, you can't just expect everyone to like take it in the same way. You have to kind of be sensitive about the other person as well, because it's a part of like getting to know each other.
You need to get to know your friends. Each situation is going to be different, so give them the chance to show you what they would do in that case, and don't just assume because they're like this, they're going to do that, and because they're like this, because then you have a friendship with someone in your head, but you're not the friend, and vice versa. So you might be saying, that's my friend, but what's their favorite color? Well, she always wears yellow, so it must be yellow. It might not be yellow.
Exactly.
So just one of those things where before you, I guess when we're talking about how people are different in friendships, know exactly, everyone is different. You're never going to get someone who's like you, where you don't have to do the work, and you're just like, that's my friend, so she must like the same color as me. She might not. So take the time, know your friend, before you start talking about like differences. Try and see the similarities or whatever they are before you start grouping. That's where it's just like
I'm like, okay, well, should we even like, is that time for me to be like, I'm leaving because you're not ever hearing my problems in this every relationship has problems, right? Whether it's the opposite.
I think if you constantly have a friend that like you're trying to give them criticism and they're not listening, I think for them it's more of like a place of like insecurity, like you've hit that place where like they're still in denial about like accepting that part of themselves about. Like, if you tell them, then that's good because they can't go back and be like, oh, like when they realize, like I don't know how many years which I don't take them further to realize. If they eventually realize they're like, oh crap, I've been doing this thing so wrong, they can't go back and be like, but nobody told me, because you did tell them, you had that conversation with them, and you're like, actually, I don't like how you do A, B, C, D, but whether they were ready to like accept that or not, that's their own problem.
Listen, they want to learn by doing, and even if you tell them you shouldn't do that, they're like, no, I won't do it, and then they call you, so I ended up doing that, and like, I shouldn't have done it, and you think, okay, they've learned from that mistake, and like next time, like, I don't think that's a good idea, but still, again, they still want to do it and learn from their mistakes instead of just by word. So I have friends where like I know, like, even if I tell them right now, I'll still tell you, but I know you're gonna do it anyways. But then my thing is like, when you end up doing it, I'm not gonna be like, I told you so. I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, cool, like now, because that's just the way they like to learn, by experimenting instead of just like, don't do that, or you shouldn't do that because you end up, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things where like, Khadija, like you can't even like cancel them, because it's like, that's the way they learn at like life or whatever, that's the way they do life. And that's why Panache is saying like it's important to know like your friends to see like how they learn and stuff.
Like let it go, like yes, you can pray for people, but then when you start reflecting and then you realize how unhappy you are in that friendship, or how unhappy you are in that situation, even though you've tried to tell them multiple times, like, I don't like the way you do this, or I don't like the way you do that. And if they choose not to accept that, then you just have to accept that they're not meant for you, they're not meant for me, and I'm not meant for them. Like if they're not willing to change, I'm not saying like change yourself, but if they are not willing to change so that it benefits your friendship, why stick around? What's the point? Like, what's the point of you just being hurt all over and all over again, hoping that someone's gonna change and hoping that, oh, that's just the way they are. Yes, it's the way they are, but they can be that way with another person who's willing to put up with that.
I think it's a better and more healthier approach to when it comes to like saying I need to distance myself from this person, to base my decision off why they do what they do as opposed to what they do. If all we do is look at the behavior of people and we judge them based on their behavior as opposed to their motivations, then we need to take a good hard look at ourselves.
Yeah.